Okay, so I'm just going to hit record now and not press stop, no matter what. So the title of this video is something along the lines of Body Dysmorphia and Living with It and Eating Disorders. For those of you not already aware, I did a video a few months ago. I will link it, I think it's called a card. Click on the thing above if you want context for some of this. But I made a video a few months ago wherein I explained that when I was 16, I developed anorexia nervosa. And along the way, it turned into bulimia, and I suffer from something called Body Dysmorphia disorder. And it's not something that is incredibly well known. It's not something that a lot of people know anything about. To be honest, there's quite a large contingent of people who don't believe it's a real thing. I'm here to tell you now it is very much a real thing, and it's horrible. So, yesterday I posted on Twitter that I'm having a fat ugly day today, please send puppies, which a lot of people were very nice and sent pictures of puppies and little videos and gifs of puppies for me. And I appreciated that. And I started getting messages from people on Skype, and Zena in particular sent out a tweet, trying to get people to pay me compliments and things, which wasn't actually the reason that I'd said I was having a fat ugly day. I wasn't saying it to get compliments. I was saying it just because, for me, dogs make me happy. And when I see dogs, I feel better. It's my way of coping. Because I don't drink and I don't do drugs, and I don't really have many friends that I live near in real life. So, dogs are my way of coping. But I've had conversations with people over the last 24 hours that maybe think this is possibly a video that I should make. I'm going to keep it as brief as I can, but it's explaining what body dysmorphia is, what it's like to live with it and an eating disorder, and sort of dispel some of the fallacies about it, I suppose. Okay, so body dysmorphia, or BDD, it's a psychological anxiety disorder. That means that people who have it have a really distorted view of themselves physically. And it leads to a lot of times worrying about their appearance. The best way that I can describe it is that when a person with body dysmorphia looks in the mirror, they don't see what's really there. And I don't mean in terms of they look in the mirror and they immediately see something that is a total hallucination. That's not how it works. It means that no matter what good things you see when you look in a mirror, your attention, whether you want it to be or not, immediately is drawn to what you perceive as your faults, your flaws, your ugly things. A lot of people, it becomes something that they focus on in their face, because when you look in a mirror, that is what you see first of all. For a lot of other people, myself included, it's to do with weight and to do with whether you are fat, skinny, whatever. There was a wonderful advert, actually, I think it was the Swedish Mental Health Institution, put out a commercial advert a few years ago that showed a girl looking in the mirror and focusing just on little bits of her body, and she was focusing on her thighs and crying because she thought she was pinching bits of fat and thinking her fat, clearly it was without words, but it showed that she thought that her thighs were too fat, and then it pulled back, and what she was seeing in the mirror was not the skeletal figure who was standing in front of it. And it was a very powerful, wordless advert. If you can, look it up. It's very good. But, okay, some of this is stuff that I learned from a doctor when I got diagnosed. And some of this is stuff that I've seen online with other people talking about this when I've been into groups and tried to explain these things to people before and tried to phrase this. Having low confidence in your appearance is really common. We're unfortunately a very media-driven society, and we are constantly told that this thing that we must buy will make us feel better because it will make us look, thinner, bulkier, muscly, softer, happier. We seem to think that happiness is something you can buy in a bottle or spend 12 weeks on a special course and instantly happiness. All your problems will go away and you'll be happy again. Doesn't work like that, really. And it's taken a great many years for me to come to that conclusion. And I do not have a total handle on it. I'm better than I was. I'm much better than I was when I was 16, when my body dysmorphia developed into anorexia. But I don't have a handle on it totally, because it's not something that you can control. It's to do with perceptions and what your brain does, and brains are traitorous places. They think things that we don't want them to think, they focus on things we don't want them to focus on, but it's very hard to stop that from happening. It takes a huge amount of mental control, and that's hard to maintain 24/7. So body dysmorphic disorder or body dysmorphia, I look in the mirror, I don't see my good points. And it leads to me feeling very down. I have little to no confidence when I'm having a down day. Everybody has up and down days. I suffer from depression as a result of this and a whole bunch of other shit. Again, see that video that I explained about before. But this particular aspect, paired with depression, it means that when I have down days, I have very, very down days. And they can very quickly turn into self-loathing days, because body dysmorphia, you start to blame yourself. You never blame the rest of society for putting unrealistic expectations on yourself. And that's a very key thing. Just having low confidence or just being in a sad mood is not the same as body dysmorphia. You never blame other people, you always blame yourself and your own perceived failures for why you are ugly. And this might be you hate the shape of your nose, you hate the way your ears look, you hate your freckles. You, as I did yesterday, I had just a major flid about, I'd bloated out. That something I'd eaten over the past few days had made my face bloat out a bit, and I'd lost some of my jawline, and I just nosedived into what I call a fat ugly day. Some of the figures on this say that it's 1 in every 100 people suffer from body dysmorphia. And it's a very toxic thing, because, like I said, your brain is a traitorous place. When other people try to convince you that you're not as fat and ugly, or whatever other faults you think you have, that you're not as bad as you think you are. For people who don't have body dysmorphia, they can take a compliment. I find it incredibly difficult to take compliments, especially about my appearance. And it's not that I don't want them, and again, this is the same for other people with body dysmorphia, but I'm just talking from my own point of view. It's not that I don't want compliments. Everybody likes compliments. Everybody wants to be told that they are worthwhile and, whatever. But my brain tries to convince the other person that they're wrong and I'm right. And as much as I wish it wouldn't do that, it doesn't take the compliment properly. It doesn't just take it as somebody says, oh, you've got a nice figure. My brain doesn't go, oh, maybe I do have a nice figure. My brain thinks, oh, God, you're just saying that to make me feel better. I'm fat and ugly. And I have tried very hard to fight this, but it doesn't work. So anybody who says that I'm pretty, or that I am nice looking, or that my chest isn't as ugly big as I think it is, or that my butt isn't just balancing out my big boobs, and I have this horrible figure, they're trying, and I really appreciate that. But this whole thing of body dysmorphia is that I'll always be taking it with a grain of salt, which is horrible. Because I would desperately like to believe those compliments. I would desperately like to think that I am attractive. Put it this way. I'm in my 30s now. And it hasn't worked yet since I was 16. Dysmorphia is really common in people who have depression or some kind of social phobia. It often goes along with obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, or generalized anxiety disorder. Not always, but it can be quite common along with that. It does often develop into either eating disorders or, and this is something thankfully I haven't done, compulsive surgeries, like cosmetic compulsive surgeries. So I've made notes here to read off. For other people, it's not something that gets diagnosed a lot, because like I said, a lot of doctors don't believe it really exists. And in terms of mental problems, mental disorders, mental issues, whatever we're going to say, whatever's the politically correct way of saying that someone like me is batshit in the belfry, it's not always diagnosed. So here are some things just to watch out for in people. Because body dysmorphia can really affect your daily life. It can affect your ability to work sometimes. If you're constantly obsessing over your appearance or constantly trying to dress to cover it, then it can be a real problem. Or if you are so conscious of one aspect of your appearance that you won't talk to people in case they spot it. It could definitely affect your social life and relationships because you don't think you're worthy of love. You don't think that you're worthy of the person you're with, because how could they possibly be attracted to somebody as fat and ugly as you? So, a person with body dysmorphia constantly compares their looks to other people's. This could be someone they know, family members, friends, acquaintances, work colleagues. It could just be random people in the street. I often, when I'm going to town, don't want to do it, but my brain just flicks to, am I bigger or smaller than that person? Am I fatter or thinner than that person? Have they got bigger boobs than mine, smaller boobs than mine? Have I got a bigger bum than them? Are my thighs more thunderous than theirs? I can't see that person's double chin, that must mean that I'm fat. And that's the way my brain goes. People spend a long time in front of the mirror, but then at other times completely avoid mirrors altogether. There's a mirror in my bathroom, and when I'm having a bad day, I'm all but putting my hand in front of my face so that I can get to the toilet without having to look in the mirror. They spend a long time concealing what they believe is a defect. Now, this could be like with clothing. Recently, I have tried to fix this a lot and start wear clothing that is just more comfortable for me and makes me feel more confident. But up until really recently, and we're talking like February this year, I would always wear baggy clothes. Long, loose, floaty tops, voluminous trousers. I didn't like wearing skirts because I felt like they clung to my bum. Some people, if they don't like their eyes, will wear sunglasses even indoors. People who don't like their hair or their hairline. Because this is the thing, body dysmorphia is not a female disorder. And this is something that's really important to get hold of, that it affects males as well. It affects men and boys too. Often it can be that they feel they're not muscly enough, they're not manly enough, or they're not tall enough, they're not athletic enough. That's the one that media tends to focus on, is men must be muscly, which is a bunch of fucking bullshit. But it can affect them too. But it means that they can cover up their hair if they've got a receding hairline. It can mean that they dress very baggy as well because they don't want people to see that they're not hugely muscly, or that they are slightly overweight. I've got that little beer belly going on, which, to be honest, I think a little beer belly is kind of cute on a man. Not on me. There we go. There he goes again. Okay, people with body dysmorphia, they become distressed, usually with a very particular area of their body. It is really commonly the face. Can't say that I'm completely immune to that, because my sister once, when we were in an argument when we were teenagers, said one thing to me and it stuck. And she said that, if anybody at BronyCon says this, I'll fucking punch you. She said that my nose looked like the end of a penis. And from then on, yeah, this is all I can see when I look in the mirror, which is a very hard thing to live with. Penis face. People with body dysmorphia feel really anxious around other people and will sometimes actively avoid social situations. I did this a lot in high school. Did not want to go out. I spent all my time working, which is a terrible thing to do because I worked in a chip shop. But I hated going out. Did not want to be seen with people because I just knew that I was going to be the fat friend designed to make them look better if they were with me. Didn't have any confidence, hated it. Probably destroyed a lot of my teenage years and the enjoyment I could have had. But that's what this does. People with body dysmorphia are often really secretive and very reluctant to seek help. One, because a lot of people don't believe this is a real thing. Or they try and fix it on their own, and they worry that they're going to be seen as vain or self-obsessed, so they won't talk about it at all. Because if they talk about it even once, it feels like it's going to be too much, and therefore nobody's going to want to listen to you, or worst of all, they'll agree with you and tell you that you're too fat, or your nose looks like a penis, or your eyes are too wide, or your ears are too sticky-outy, if that's a word. As I said, they seek a lot of medical treatment for this perceived defect. Like, they might have a lot of cosmetic surgery, but it doesn't actually help. It doesn't relieve their distress. Somebody who is unhappy with a piece of the body, has surgery, and then feels better, probably doesn't have body dysmorphia, because you're not happy with it. I think it was Lolo Ferrari kept having breast augmentations because she was never happy with the way that her breasts looked, and she ended up having a heart attack because they were so big that she couldn't maintain them anymore. Her body couldn't carry them around. The last bit is excessively diet and exercise, which I can be accused of. That's one of the things about when I have anorexia is that I'll go overboard with exercising. And just as a little addendum here, having an eating disorder, I liken it sometimes to people who are alcoholics or are drug addicts. You don't stop being those things when you stop reacting to the impulses your brain's giving you. An alcoholic is always an alcoholic. They're just an alcoholic who doesn't drink anymore. A drug addict is always a drug addict, but they are a drug addict who doesn't take drugs anymore. It's one of the reasons you have like your 30-day chip, or you have your year-long anniversary, or whatever. And anorexia and bulimia and other eating disorders are the same thing. They don't leave your head. You are always going to be that thing. You just sometimes have more of a handle on it than other times. So, being a recovering alcoholic, being a recovering drug addict, being a recovering anorexic. I don't starve myself anymore, but there's always that voice in the back of my head saying, you shouldn't be eating that. What are you doing? Those are empty calories. How dare you? You've gone so long without eating anything today. Just keep it going a bit longer and you can make it to bedtime, and look how good you'll feel, how clean you'll feel if you didn't have whatever it is you're about to eat. That's what your brain does. So yeah, people with body dysmorphia don't always want to seek help. So if you think that someone you know has it, they're probably not going to volunteer it, either because they don't know it's a real thing, or because they're embarrassed. It is really important that they do get help, though, because as with alcoholism and drug addiction, they're not things that get better on their own. It's unlikely, not impossible, but it is unlikely that people can fix this on their own. So, here's a couple of questions I'm going to read off this website. Do you worry a lot about the way you look and wish you could think about it less? What specific concerns do you have about your appearance? On a typical day, how many hours is your appearance on your mind? What effect does it have on your life? And does it make it hard to do your work or to be with friends? And if you suspect that you might have this, please do visit your doctor. There are things that can be done. There's like talking therapy from cognitive behavioural institutions, which is what I did. There are some, if it's really, really bad, then there is something called a selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor. That's quite invasive, and that involves surgery, so you probably won't want that. But if it's bad enough, if it goes untreated, that could be necessary, and it would be an absolute travesty if someone didn't get the help they needed because they didn't know that this is available. So, there are some support groups. I'm going to put them in the description of this video. I've talked for nearly 20 minutes, and I think this is probably where I should end it. Again, speaking just from my own point of view, but I'm speaking for other people unless they want to correct me. Every day is a struggle. There are good days, and there are bad days. Some of the good days are extremely good. You can walk down the street and think you're actually not completely hideous. People might actually like you. And then there are other days where you don't even want to get out of bed, or where you exercise so much at the gym that you're practically shaking when you go to shower off, or when you look at food and it's the enemy. And those days aren't going to be all days. That's the best piece of advice I can give is please seek help. It's something that can be lived with. If you know somebody who does have this, please, please be patient with them. Please, please don't be frustrated if they can't take compliments. If they insist on them being unattractive, don't then throw up your hands and go, oh God, I can't be doing with this. Because the only thing that will help is trying to correct somebody's thinking and trying to make them see that that you're not saying it just to be nice. You're not saying it just because they're friend. You're not saying it just because you're worried about them. You're saying it because you think it's true. They do. They're not ugly. They're not fat and ugly all days. Be lovely to each other, and goodbye, everybody.